And we are live for Thursday night. Let's switch out the hat here. Back to the math hat. It's Thursday night. We got an exciting game tonight. We got the Kansas City Chiefs playing against the Denver Broncos. This is going to be a fun one, guys. I'm excited to get into it. There is a lot to go over in this game for fantasy, for betting, and for the NFL just in general. It was a fun week 5. We're now 8-2 on the free player props. The Chiefs are at home in this one against the Broncos. Guys, the Broncos have had the worst defense in the NFL so far this season. Tonight they get a matchup against Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be a tough night for the Denver Broncos and for Denver Broncos fans. Let's do this. It's Thursday night. We're live on TikTok. We're live on YouTube. And this is going to be a hard night, I think, for a lot of start-sit decisions. We're, of course, going to prioritize the Thursday night start-sits like we always do. I don't have that many must-starts tonight. Really only the obvious ones. You got to start Patrick Mahomes. You got to start Travis Kelce. That's a lock every single week. You have to start Isaiah Pacheco in this game for sure. We'll get into why that is. Jerry Judy, I tilt towards still starting him, so I put him in the must-start list rather than the must-bench list. I think he's really more of a fringe start, though. I don't think you need to force Judy into your lineups this week. Like, would I start him over KJ Osborne? I think so. I mean, that one's pretty close, honestly. That's about where I put Judy at, like right around that KJ Osborne wide receiver 2/3 range. I don't think Judy is a locked-in wide receiver 1 this week, but I do think he's an okay start tonight. There's a bunch of different reasons, though, to kind of be nervous about the points and passing in this game just in general. So let's actually just cut straight to that to start out tonight, because, guys, we haven't had very many Weatherman Sam updates this season, but we got a pretty big one tonight. There is going to be some pretty significant wind in the game tonight. Sustained winds around 15 miles an hour and gusts as high as 30 miles an hour tonight. The passing games could be affected. There's a lot of research out there showing that significant wind over 25 miles an hour does negatively impact passing games. Now, this is not sustained wind over 30 miles an hour, so we still don't want to overreact. We definitely still need to start Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. And I think this only bodes better for Isaiah Pacheco. He's an absolute locked-in must-start player tonight. And this is why Judy is not a must-start. He's really more of a fringe start. I put him in the must-start list because I got rid of the fringe start list. But if there was a fringe start list, Judy would be at the top of that list. He's not a must-start. But I still think he's an okay start, even with the wind. The Broncos are going to get crushed in this game. And they're going to have to throw the ball still. You still can throw the ball with 15-mile-an-hour winds. But depending on how much wind gusts there are, it could be really tough to throw the ball tonight. So it's definitely in play to impact the game tonight, the weather. That's Weatherman Sam report. I'm sure I'll bring this up again as we get through this live. So yeah, the absolute must-starts. The for sure you are ridiculous for benching must-starts, Patrick Mahomes, Kelce, Pacheco, Chiefs defense, and Bucker. And honestly, the kickers, maybe they aren't even must-starts with the wind at play tonight too. Judy is more of a fringe start. You got to start Pacheco, though, guys. Let's dive into the Pacheco stuff. First of all, the Chiefs, they're going to win this game. They're 10.5-point favorites. The Kansas City Chiefs have beat the Denver Broncos 15 consecutive times. This is going back like 5+ years. The Chiefs have beaten them 15 straight times. I don't think the Broncos have beaten the Chiefs since Mahomes came into town for the Chiefs. The Broncos, guys, they've arguably, I would argue, the worst defense in the league. I think they have a historically bad defense, specifically against the run. But, guys, the Broncos, they've allowed the most plays in the NFL of 15 or more yards. They've allowed 48 plays this season in just 5 games of 15 or more yards. And they're also leading the league in plays of 20 or more yards. They're letting up big plays every single week, multiple times a game. And over the past 4 weeks, guys, the running backs against the Broncos, you're going to have wanted to start them in fantasy. The Broncos, they allowed an RB 1 week to Brian Robinson. They allowed an RB 1 week to Devon Achane. And I'm not saying RB 1 is top 12 running back. The RB 1 that week was these guys. RB 2 to Raheem Mostert. RB 8 to Khalil Herbert. RB 3 last week to Breece Hall. I hope you took the Breece Hall prop. So you're playing Isaiah Pacheco tonight for sure. And I'll cut right to the chase with the Isaiah Pacheco stuff because we were on the Breece prop last week. And yeah, you guys guessed it. We're on the Isaiah Pacheco prop tonight. It's over 77.5 rushing yards. I am taking this. I'm 8-2 on the free player props given out on this live stream. So hammer the Isaiah Pacheco prop. I'm liking this one a lot. He has only hit this, if you're watching live on TikTok, Pacheco's only cleared this line, 77.5, in 2 of his last 10 games. But the numbers, guys, have looked pretty strong for Pacheco. Let me pull up the game logs here for Isaiah Pacheco. to show you what I'm talking about if you're watching live on YouTube. But yeah, the free player prop tonight, it is Isaiah Pacheco over 77.5 rushing yards. I want to avoid the passing props if I can in this one because of the wind in this game. I think that only helps Pacheco. Bro is just yapping. Yeah, that's all I do in these lives. It's yapping. And Judy is in the must bench category, the must start category, but he's really more of a fringe start. Like I would definitely start Nico Collins over Jerry Judy personally tonight because of the wind in this game. I lean towards benching these guys if you have another good option to go with. All right, let me pull up the WalterPicks app on the YouTube live. Guys, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. If you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching live on TikTok, hit the follow button. And also, I'm also live on YouTube, and the YouTube live is a better viewing experience because I can pull comments up on the screen and I can share my screen to game logs as we talk about them. So let me pull up the Pacheco game logs and we can talk about these on the YouTube live. Pacheco's a top 10 running back option this week. I think you could argue him into the top 5 this week. And yeah, just looking at here on the YouTube live, the Pacheco, let me pull this down here. The Pacheco game logs. Pacheco's had at least 15 carries now in 3 straight games. He's got at least 12 carries in 4 straight games. He scored a rushing touchdown in 3 straight games now. He's got at least 55 rushing yards in 4 straight games. The floor is high. The ceiling's really, really high for Pacheco in this matchup. There is not a better matchup for running backs than the Denver Broncos this season. So yeah, Pacheco's the free player prop. Start him in fantasy for sure. Judy's going to be the toughest decision, I think, start sit-wise. He ranks as wide receiver 27 right now in the WalterPicks app rankings. He is not a locked-in must-start. He's the least startable player in the must-start list tonight for sure. And there's definitely a pretty low floor for Judy tonight. The good thing for Judy is the snap percentage is going up. He set a season-high 84% snap percentage last week. It does look like Judy's back to full health. This was the first week, last week, that Jerry Judy ran around on 100% of Russell Wilson's dropbacks. That's a good sign for him because he was getting eased in, coming off the hamstring injury he missed week 1 with. And so yeah, this was his best peripheral numbers of the season in terms of snaps and routes. He also saw 7 targets again. He now has 2 games with 7 targets this season. I think he'll lead the Broncos in targets tonight. I think he's pretty clearly the best receiver on the Denver Broncos. And I think he's pretty clearly the top receiving option that Russ is going to go to the most. So yeah, I like Jerry Judy for all those reasons. The reason I don't like Jerry Judy tonight, though, the Chiefs defense has not been that great for wide receivers this season. They're allowing, the Chiefs are allowing the 23rd most points per game to receivers. The 10th fewest is another way to put that. They're allowing the 10th fewest points per game to receivers. That's the Chiefs. So the matchup isn't amazing for Judy. Then on top of that, Weatherman Sam, putting my weather hat on for a second, Weatherman hat on for a second. There's weather in this game you got to be aware of. And the weather to be aware of is wind. There's going to be sustained wind at 15 miles an hour, projecting around 15 mile an hour sustained winds and wind gusts over 25, even 30 miles an hour tonight. That is a big deal. It is extremely hard to throw in the wind over 25 miles an hour. The sustained winds are not great, but like not that big of a concern to me. It's the wind gusts over 25 miles an hour that I'm concerned about. And yeah, I do think it's reason enough to bench Cortland Sutton. I think it's reason enough to bench Russell Wilson tonight, bench Rashee Rice, Kadarius Toney, Scantling, Sky Moore. I want nothing to do with any of these receivers. And I think that Rashee Rice, I feel like a lot of people are going to throw Rashee Rice into their starting lineups tonight. I don't think that's a good idea at all. I like Josh Downs, for example, a decent amount more than Rashee Rice. You can see the start-sit comparison in the TikTok live of Rashee Rice versus Josh Downs, and it's not that close this week. Josh Downs, first of all, Josh Downs has been better than Rashee Rice this season. Josh Downs coming off really a breakout game. Rashee Rice is the most exciting receiver, on the Chiefs, but they're all have such a low floor. The ball is going to get spread around to all these receivers, plus you add in the wind, and yeah, I'm pretty nervous overall for all the receivers on the Chiefs, not named Travis Kelce, who to me is technically a receiver. Isaiah Pacheco, though, needs to be started. All right, Javonte or Jaleel today? I have to play one of them since Jones bye. All right, yeah, let's do this comparison on the WalterPicks app because I lean Javonte. You know, he's playing. He practiced in full. I've been an anti-Jaleel McLaughlin guy, though, and that was wrong last week. I was wrong about Jaleel McLaughlin last week. You know, I'm going to get stuff wrong, of course. I own that when I do. And yeah, I was wrong about Jaleel last week. Jaleel had a pretty good game overall. He finished with 18 points. He was a top 10 running back. Last week, he only had 9 carries. He turned that into 68 yards. He had one huge one. And yeah, he had a decent receiving role last week as well. 15% target share for Jaleel McLaughlin. But yeah, now Javonte Williams is back in the mix. And he's been playing the most when he was playing. He was playing the most snaps, getting the most touches of all the running backs. The news cleared from the injury report. He missed week 5 with a quad injury. full participant Tuesday and Wednesday practices. He should draw the start. It's going to be a 3-man committee. I want nothing to do with any of these guys. But yeah, I personally lean Javonte Williams. Walter's leaning Jaleel McLaughlin. I don't think that's that bold of a take. I just disagree with this one. I would go Javonte over Jaleel. Jaleel's been better than Javonte this season. So, it's close. But yeah, I personally lean the guy that we drafted earlier, the guy that has been playing more when they both played. I lean Javonte Williams in that one. And again, I want nothing to do with either if I can. I'm definitely not starting Javonte if I have Brees, for example. A good evening, Sam. Hope all has been well and cannot wait for another great Thursday live. Thank you, Kylo, for your positivity. I'm hyped, man. This is going to be a fun game. So why I'm benching Rashee Rice is because there's wind in this game, and Rashee Rice's floor is close to 0 points. Only got Kelsey going tonight, so don't need to start sit, but would love to hear another prop. So generally, the free player prop tonight, it is Isaiah Pacheco over 77.5 rushing yards. I like that one a lot. We were on the Brees one last week, and guys, there's like a legitimate chance Pacheco beats this prop in just one carry. There's no team allowing more big plays per game than the Denver Broncos. We saw it with Brees last week. He ripped off, I think that was an 80-yard touchdown run or 60 to 80-yard touchdown run. He beat his prop in a single run. He ended up with like 170 rushing yards. Guys, they can't stop the running game. They can't stop big plays in the running game. We saw it with Brian Robinson 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we saw it with Achane and Mostert. The week after that, we saw it with Khalil Herbert. And then last week, we saw it with Breece Hall. All those guys finished as top 8 running backs in fantasy. All of them rushed for over 77.5 rushing yards. So I like this one a lot for Pacheco. And the other props I would take in this game are unders in the passing game. I would stay away from Judy's under because I really think Judy could get to 10-plus targets in this game. The Broncos are 10.5-point underdogs. That's why I have Judy in the must-start list, not the must-bench list, despite the wind, despite the swirling trade rumors. I think Judy still has a pretty exciting ceiling in a game that the Broncos are going to get crushed in. I think the floor for Sutton is too low, though, to start, especially after last week for Sutton. Surely he has a ceiling, but the floor is really, really low for Sutton as well. What do you think about the following parlays? Pacheco over 80 rushing yards and over 47 points. Mims over 21 receiving yards and Chiefs money line. Thanks as always, Sam. I don't hate the Mims one. I don't love Mims tonight. Let's put the Mims game logs. I mean, the Mims game logs are just infuriating for fantasy people because he's shown flashes of pretty clearly being like at least the second best receiver on the Broncos. I mean, he has barely played, and I think he still maybe leads the team in receiving yards. Week 2 and 3, he had over 200 receiving yards. He still has not had a game where he played more than 40% of the snaps. The snap share went down last week. His route percentage has not been at over 40% in a game. He's still seeing at least one target in every game, so you can bank on at least one target for Mims. And you got to assume they start to get him more involved. But, man, I mean, they're playing Brandon Johnson, like no-name guys. Greg Dulcich, he's supposed to be back tonight. Excited for Dulcich to come back. He's on a lot of my best ball teams. He's certainly not startable tonight, though, either. Probably not going to see his full workload. Judy or Hollywood this week? I'd lean Hollywood. I would lean, if you have a good option like Hollywood, a good option like Nico Collins, I would lean those guys over Judy this week because of the bad matchup for Judy tonight and also the wind tonight. All right, bro, Javonte or Gibbs. If Gibbs doesn't play, it's going to be Zeke. I would lean Gibbs, and I think there's a good chance Gibbs doesn't play, and then I would just go Zeke. And I honestly think Zeke over Javonte is fine. Zeke definitely had a decent role, at least last week, even though the Pats offense is just abysmal. I mean, don't get me going on that. But I would not start Javonte Williams. If you have Jahmyr Gibbs, don't start Javonte Williams, especially if you have a decent backup option like Zeke, who is like at least in the conversation to be started over Javonte just as is. So I think that's a fine approach. I would not start Javonte tonight. Year 3 with WalterPicks. Let's go. Rest of the season, Ridley or Amari Cooper. Any reason why Walter has Ridley so low, relatively speaking? The reason Ridley is low is his target share is declining. Let me pull up the numbers here, and I'll let you know what the target share number is for Ridley in the app. He's at wide receiver 21 this week, and the target share last week, 22%. So he's now had 4 games where he's been under a 23% target share. So it's hard to project him rest of season for a target share much higher than 23, 24%. I think we might even be projecting him 24% still in the rest of season projections that power Walter. And that's why he's going down in the ranks, even though he ended up having a good game last week. We have right now Calvin Ridley projected for a 26% target share rest of season, which feels like it's probably too high still, a little bit too high. I mean, he's only had 1 game over 26% target share this season, and he still is kind of low in the ranks. So I'm a little bit down overall on Ridley's target share, and I'm pretty nervous about Amari Cooper just because of the Deshaun Watson stuff. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. He has not practiced this week despite coming off the bye. It was a really weird situation before the bye, if you guys remember that, a couple weeks ago, where he said himself in the locker room in an interview that he was good, he was going to play, and then he was medically cleared to play. And then before the game, he said, I'm not playing. It almost felt like before that last Browns game against the Ravens before their bye, like the team thought Deshaun was going to play and then he didn't play, and they were just scrambling for the game, totally unprepared for him not to play. Sounds like PJ Walker will start if Deshaun can't play. That's definitely bad news overall for Amari, though, and he really needs Deshaun to get back to full health. All right, let's get back to some of these Thursday night start sits. I'm benching basically everyone tonight. Really, I'm starting Mahomes, Kelsey, Pacheco. Those are the only guys I think you absolutely need to start in basically all situations. I don't think there's going to be a situation tonight where I tell anyone to bench Mahomes, Kelsey, or Pacheco. There's going to be a lot of situations where I tell people to bench Judy. Like I would play Brees and Debo over Judy, for example, in this comment I'm seeing in the YouTube live. Why is Judy a start? Yeah, so Judy's really a fringe start tonight. He's a fringe start tonight because for the first time last game, Judy ran a route on 100% of the dropbacks for the Broncos. He's back to full health. And this is really the first time we can confidently say that going into a game for Jerry Judy. He had 7 targets last week. That was the second game in his last 3 games with 7 targets. I think he'll lead this team in targets again tonight. I think he's the highest ceiling of all receivers for the Broncos tonight. Judy had a 26% target share last game, which is around what we saw him do at full health in past games last season. So I think he's going to be right around that 25% target share mark. That does make him startable for sure tonight in a game the Broncos are going to get crushed. But there's also some bad weather in this game for the passing attacks. There's 15-mile-an-hour sustained winds and wind gusts over 30 miles an hour. So that's why I lean towards Judy being closer to a fringe start. If there was no wind in this game, I would be arguing much harder for Judy because I do think he has a really high ceiling. I think he remains one of the more underrated receivers in the league. I think a team would be smart in the NFL to trade for Judy. Bill, please, I know you're listening. Can we please get a receiver on the Patriots? Why not Jerry Judy? He's young. He is one of the more talented route runners in the league. So yeah, I'm in on Jerry Judy's talent just in general. Tonight, I'm a little bit nervous just because the matchup's not great and there's going to be wind in this game. But yeah, there's a lot of guys I would start Judy over. Let's compare. Like Nico Collins, I think is right around the mark. I would start Nico over Judy. Nico has a better matchup. He's been better than Judy this season, and he is not going to be playing in a game with as much wind as Judy's playing in. So I think that one's fine. Let me look at some other receivers I would start over Judy. I think starting Addison over Judy is fine. I think Jacoby Myers, Christian Kirk, I'd start over Judy. Marquise Brown, I'd start over Judy. Calvin Ridley. Amari Cooper, I think, is still startable over Judy, even if PJ Walker starts. Devontae Smith for sure. Ayuk, I think I would start over Judy as well. I disagree with Walter on that one. Zay Flowers, I think I can start over Judy. I would start Judy over McLaurin. Scary Terry, I think that's fine. I would start Judy over KJ Osborne. And yeah, all these guys kind of down here, I think I would start Judy over. And yeah, I really don't want anything to do with Sutton. I think Michael Thomas and D-Hop, they could be started over Judy. I'm not sure I would do those, though. I think Judy still has a slightly higher ceiling than them. I think D-Hop has a tough matchup this week. Yeah, he does against the Ravens. They've been 9th best against receivers this season. D-Hop is coming off a really big game, though, and the target share numbers have been pretty elite in a couple of these games for D-Hop. He's had at least a 29% target share now in 3 games. All right, let's get back to some of these Thursday night start sits. Myers or Judy? Yeah, it's got to be Jacoby Myers over Judy. I think, like, generally, Judy's a fringe start, not a must start. Hey, Sam, I'm thin at RBs right now. Should I start Javonte or Tyler Algier, or should I pick up someone off waivers like DeMercado, I think that's how you say it, or Spears? Yeah, so I think that you don't start Javonte tonight. There's so much risk with Javonte tonight. I could definitely end up eating my words with this one. Javonte has the ability to have a big game. But guys, how much is Javonte really going to play tonight? Because before this injury, he didn't play more than half the snaps in any of the games. They were easing him in off a brutal injury from last year. Javonte Williams tore his ACL, PCL, and MCL last year, and he still played in week 1. And they were easing him in, so he didn't play more than half the snaps in a game. And then he gets hurt in week 4, misses week 5. Now he's back on a short week 6. A part of me thinks they held him out week 5 because they knew they had a short week on Thursday night. But yeah, the floor is so low for Javonte. I mean, like, the ceiling isn't even that high either. He's not going to play more than half the snaps. There's almost no chance that we see Javonte play more than half the snaps. So, like, just, yeah, no thank you to that. I mean, you can kind of say that about these other running backs you're asking about here too. Let's do a comparison here, though, with him, Algier, and I think Spears. I'm not starting DeMercado this week with the other running back there, Keontae Ingram, number 1 on the depth chart. Looking like for that game. I don't want anything to do with DeMercado. I think he's a trap this week and was kind of a fool's gold on the waiver wire a bit because Keontae Ingram's been out and he's going to be back. And Keontae Ingram was ahead of DeMercado before he was hurt. So I think there's going to be a timeshare there and not one that you want. Te'Jay Spears, yeah, he's the move here. Te'Jay Spears is startable, guys, in PPR leagues especially. Spears has standalone value. I think he was in the last video I posted on TikTok, coming off his best game of the season, best game of his career as a rookie. Look at these yards per carry numbers. He's been at least 4.9 yards per carry in 4 of his 5 games. He is going to win leagues if Derrick Henry gets injured at any point this season. And the target numbers are why he's startable in PPR leagues. Now Te'Jay Spears has had at least a 12% target share in every game. 3 straight games of at least a 15% target share. He's got at least 4 targets in 4 of his 5 games. Te'Jay Spears is startable because of the PPR format. All right, should I trade Achane? He's my RB3/flex. Start out 0-3. Yeah, if you're 0-3, you got to trade Achane. If you're 0-3, you got to trade Justin Jefferson. If you're 0-3, trade Anthony Richardson. Trade these injured players. If you are 0-3, you need to try to make the playoffs. There is a very clear process in fantasy. You first have to optimize for making the playoffs. The second you make the playoffs, you then need to optimize for the playoffs. If you aren't currently in the playoffs, like you need to lose trade value. Try to make the playoffs. It is worth it. Your season means nothing if you don't make the playoffs. Give us a free player prop. Yeah, the free player prop of the day. Same one for the subscribers. Some subscribers can find in the WalterPicks app. Isaiah Pacheco, over 77.5 rushing yards. I really like this one a lot. We're 8-2 in the free player props on these live streams so far this season. And yeah, I'm firing up Isaiah Pacheco with a lot of confidence tonight because the Denver Broncos have been the worst rushing defense in the league this year. It hasn't been very close. And they've actually, they're ranking as a historically bad run defense. The Denver Broncos, they've allowed the most plays of at least 15 yards in the NFL. They've also allowed just colossally massive running back performances over the last month. The Denver Broncos, guys, they have not stopped a single running back, not one. Michael Carter, last week, he had an efficient day. Breece Hall went for 177 rushing yards and 17 receiving yards. He had almost 200 total yards. He ranked as a top 3 running back last week. Khalil Herbert went for 103 yards against the Denver Broncos. Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, Chris Brooks, they combined for over 300 rushing yards against the Denver Broncos in that game. And B-Rob had 87 rushing yards against them as well. So we've seen 5 different running backs go over this prop line for Isaiah Pacheco. And Pacheco, his usage has been looking pretty good, guys. Pacheco is definitely in play as a top 10 running back option in fantasy this week. I think he has to be starting all leagues. And I think he's a great player prop tonight. Isaiah Pacheco, he's had at least 15 carries in each of his last 3 games. He's been pretty efficient overall on the ground, averaging more than 4 yards per carry so far this season and in most games. He's got a rushing touchdown in 3 straight. And this is the best matchup of the season. This is the best matchup for any running back season against the Denver Broncos. Yeah, I'm in on Raheem Mostert's prop. I like, for all the other props that I would recommend, going with the unders in the passing and receiving props. This game has significant weather that's going to impact the game. Sustained winds around 15 miles an hour tonight and gusts as high as 30 miles an hour. The passing games definitely could be affected. I like the unders for Mahomes. I like the unders for even Kelsey. I think the unders for all the receivers are fine. The one under I wouldn't touch is the Judy one, because I still think Judy could get a lot of targets in this game, in a game where the Broncos are 10.5-point underdogs and they're going to get crushed. Judy had his first game with 100% route percentage last week. He's finally back to full health. So yeah, I do like Jerry Judy still a little bit tonight. I think he's the least must start of all the must start players though for me tonight. Judy, I have on my must start list because people asked me to remove the fringe start list and pick a side, and I'm picking the side towards starting Judy. Like, I think if you're on the fence with Judy, I'm starting him over a bunch of different players tonight, but there's also a lot of players I would start over Judy. Some of the guys I would start over Jerry Judy tonight include Nico Collins. I would start him over Judy this week. I would start guys like Jordan Addison, Christian Kirk, Jacoby Myers, Jalen Waddle, Marquise Brown. I would start Amari Cooper over him, Godwin, Metcalf. I would start Ayuk and Zay Flowers over Judy as well. And that's kind of where I draw the line. Like, I'm starting Judy over Terry McLaurin. I'm starting Judy over KJ Osborne. I'm starting Judy over Josh Palmer. I think I would probably start Olave over Judy. Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, I think can be started over Judy. I'm not starting Boyd over Judy. I'm definitely not starting Sutton over Judy. And yeah, I want nothing to do with Sutton for the same wind reasons. Plus, I think Judy's just much better than Sutton. Sutton had a bad game last week in the first game where Judy was at full health. Sutton saw just 3 targets, 11% target share, 1 catch, 13 yards. We're really close to a donut for Sutton last week against the Jets. This is a better matchup than the Jets are, but the Chiefs are also no joke against receivers. By the way, this matchup is going to happen twice in the next 3 weeks. These two teams play each other not next week, but the week after that. And guys, the Chiefs have won 15 consecutive games against the Broncos. They're going to beat them another 2 times in just the next couple of weeks. Should I trade Fields for Addison, Moss, Stafford? I think that's a fair trade. Depends on how badly you need those receivers. Would you play Pacheco over Walker? Yeah, I'm playing Pacheco over Kenneth Walker this week for sure. Why is Will Lutz a bench? Because the Broncos not projected to score many points tonight, and there's significant wind in this game. Not good for the kickers. Why sit McKinnon? McKinnon has an extremely low floor. I mean, this is why I feel like I've been on team bench McKinnon like basically every week for the past several years now, and that has exploded in my face, specifically last year where he just won leagues in the playoffs. But yeah, guys, we've seen now in 4 games, as Jerick McKinnon's gone under 5 points. Under 5.5 points, excuse me, in 4 different games. He had one good game that came against the Bears. This is a good matchup for McKinnon. So I could see yourself talking yourself into McKinnon in some really tight spots. But yeah, I mean, the floor is so low. He's not even playing a third of the snaps for the Chiefs. And there's not going to be a huge receiving role, I don't think, in this backfield tonight in a game that they're going to be able to just run a lot. So yeah, I'm pretty out on McKinnon in general. I think you should look for other options. I would play Pacheco over Kenneth Walker. Thoughts on CD's rest of season with his target share? Is trading Ridley for him a no-brainer? I would trade Ridley for CeeDee Lamb if I could pull off that trade. I think that does make a lot of sense. Let's compare these two guys. And yeah, the target share has been really disappointing for CeeDee Lamb. Really surprising and disappointing for CeeDee Lamb. I think he's one of the tougher guys to wrap your head around in fantasy right now. We look at the target share numbers here, and yeah, he's been under 20% target share in 4 out of 5 games. I mean, go back to last season. Look at these target share numbers from last season. You're seeing very few games under 20% target shares. There's only 3 games all of last season. He played every game, only 3 games all of last season where CeeDee Lamb went under 20% target share. And this year he's done that in 4 out of 5 games. Like, how is this happening? He's only had 4 catches in 4 of his 5 games. And the one game where they threw the ball to him a lot, he popped off. He had 25 fantasy points. So yeah, I still think CeeDee Lamb will bounce back. He definitely has a better schedule rest of season than he's had so far this year. He has played the Jets, the Pats, the 49ers, not terrible defenses overall against top receivers. He gets a good matchup with the Chargers this week, and then several good matchups rest of season as well. I like him more than Ridley. Let's compare some of these stats though. So yeah, Lamb projects much better than him this week, better matchup than him this week, and yet Lamb's already averaging more points, averaging more yards, despite I think the target share numbers probably skewing. Wow, yeah, still a better target share for Lamb than Ridley. Both these guys a little bit disappointing target shares so far this season. The air yards are a bit higher for Ridley. That's pretty interesting. Routes are a little bit higher for Ridley as well. But yeah, overall, I'd take CD over Ridley rest of the season. I still think Ridley's a top 12 wide receiver rest of season, just because we have a pretty solid data on him in past years, just absolutely balling out as a top 12 wide receiver. That's why he was picked, in the second round of almost every draft. Sutton or Keontae Ingram? Oh, God, yeah. I really don't want to start Sutton tonight with the wind in this game, with the matchup against the Chiefs, who are allowing the 10th fewest points per game to receivers this season. No thank you to Courtland Sutton. I think Keontae Ingram is also not a great option. I like him more than DeMarcado. But yeah, I think I probably, if that's a PPR league, I might lean Sutton in that one, but it's definitely close. Should I do A.J. Brown for Amon-Ra and Jared Goff, 1 QB league and PPR? It's a pretty fair trade. I don't generally value QBs at all in trades. So you're really doing A.J. Brown for Amon-Ra. So yeah, if we did this trade analyzer, I kind of feel like A.J. Brown side wins that trade. Let me pull this comment up from Jack Hill. How are we doing, Jack? Courtland Sutton, Josh Reynolds, KJ Osborne, Drake London, Devontae Smith. Start 2 in a PPR league. Yeah, so you're not starting Sutton here. I'm starting Osborne over Sutton for sure. I think Devontae Smith over Sutton easily too. I think I would go Osborne and Devontae Smith. I would consider Drake London. What's the matchup here for the Falcons? Let's compare all 3 of these guys here in the WalterPicks app and see what Walter says. But my gut says Osborne and Devontae Smith should be started over Josh Reynolds, Drake London, and Courtland Sutton. But let's see if Drake London should be considered here, because I do think that could be relatively close. And yeah, I think Walter's going to agree with my gut reaction, and he does. And yeah, Drake London does have the best matchup though of these guys. I think Drake London absolutely is in the mix here for this one, but man, he has such a low floor every single week. Drake London had a donut in week 1. Honestly, I kind of think Drake London over Osborne isn't that unreasonable. I would still play Devontae Smith against the Jets despite the tough matchup. This one's close, but yeah, definitely Devontae Smith. And then yeah, it's Osborne between Osborne and London. Osborne's definitely in play this week with Jefferson out for the foreseeable future. You're certainly starting Saquon Barkley over Judy. You're starting Nico Collins over Judy. You're starting Jacoby Myers over Judy. Judy is a fringe start, not a must start tonight. He's on the must start list because there's no fringe start list anymore, but he's really more of a fringe start. Puka, A.J. Brown, and Ridley Addison start 2. Not a Thursday night question here, but I lean towards the first 2. I think you can't be benching Puka still, and A.J. Brown absolutely cannot be benched any week, even against the Jets. Hey, bro, full PPR, pick 2, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, Kirk, Ayuk, or Kenneth Walker. Again, not a Thursday night question, but yeah, you're not benching Kyron this week. No benching Kyren Williams. And then Nacua, Kirk, Ayuk, Kenneth Walker. It's between Kenneth and Nacua. If this is a full PPR league, I honestly lean Puka over Kenneth, but that one's probably pretty close. Yo, Sam, should I do this? Monty and Watson, my wide receiver 5 for Jefferson. I'm 3-2, and it's a 10-man league with 6 playoff teams. Yeah, Nick, pull the trigger on this. Do this. Yeah, if you are, yeah, I would do this. I personally would do this. Monty is definitely a really good asset. Christian Watson has at least a ceiling. Like, I would see if you could get some running back. I don't know if what RB Monty is for you. But yeah, I mean, if you can, and this is why the new trade analyzer in the WalterPicks app is so great, because you can sync your league and you'll see how the trade impacts your projection rest of season. And you can also filter that to just looking at the playoffs. Because once you're 3-2 and 6 teams out of 10 make the playoffs, most teams are making the playoffs. So if you're a winning record, you're probably going to make the playoffs in that league. And Jefferson's going to help you in the playoffs more than both those guys. So yeah, I think it's a reasonable trade to make if you are in clear contention of the playoffs. Judy, Godwin, or T. Yeah, I'm playing Godwin over Judy, and sounds like T. Higgins is going to play. I'd probably play T. Higgins over Judy as well. Why bench Rice? Because there's significant wind in this game, and the Chiefs are going to be able to run a lot in this one. Pacheco for Puka, yeah, I would do that, I think, especially if your running backs are strong. Do I start Judy over Hollywood? Nope. I would start Hollywood Brown over Judy. I would start Flowers over Judy as well. I would start Judy over Downs. Personally, I'm starting Judy over Downs. That one is kind of close. Josh Downs is coming off his best game of his career, 95 yards and a solid fantasy day from him last week. I still like Judy a bit more than Josh Downs. But yeah, Judy is in the fringe start category for me tonight. And that's because he's back to full health. And this is really the first game you can confidently say Jerry Judy's going to be out there every single passing play. He was out there 100% of the routes last week. That was the first game that's been the case this season. He had 7 targets, his highest target share of the season last week. The Broncos are 10.5-point underdogs in this game. This game's not going to be close. And the only reason he's not a must start is there's significant wind in this game. We got winds around 15 miles an hour, sustained winds around 15 miles an hour tonight, and gusts as high as 30 miles an hour. That is going to affect the passing game if that comes to fruition. And as close we are to the game, I do think this is going to be the win scenario tonight. Do I trade Aaron Jones for Justin Jefferson straight up? 2-3, but have Pollard and DeAndre Swift. Yeah, I'm fine with this one too. I don't really love trading for Jefferson if you aren't locked into the playoffs. But if you're not starting a guy that you can trade for Justin Jefferson, like there's still a story there of how Justin Jefferson is going to help you win this league when he comes back in the fantasy playoffs. I do think he's going to come back. Just locked in the prop, Sam. Let's have a night. Let's go. Enjoy the game. See you Sunday morning as well. Kylo, should I trade Waddle for Amari Cooper and Gibbs? It's a fair trade. I'm still in on trading for Jahmyr Gibbs. It feels like his price is only going down every single week. I think he's one of the most acquirable players in fantasy. I hope if you were interested in acquiring Gibbs, you've waited because his price has only gone down. Judy is a fringe start, not a must start tonight. I would start guys like Nico Collins over him. I am starting Judy over Josh Downs. Chiefs D or Cowboys D is a close one, I think. I do really like the Chiefs defense tonight, but let me just pull this up and remind myself who the Cowboys are playing this week. And yeah, it's the Chiefs D over the Cowboys defense. The Cowboys defense is up against the Chargers. Yeah, definitely start the Chiefs defense tonight. And again, the wind is only going to help the defenses, not hurt the defenses. It is going to hurt the kickers. It's going to hurt the quarterbacks and the receivers. Judy or Osborne? Yeah, I'd lean Judy over Osborne. I think that's like right around the line of where I'm starting Judy. I'm starting Judy over Josh Palmer. I would do that as well. I'm starting Judy over Josh Downs. I think Judy over Gabe Davis is definitely fine, in my opinion. Gabe Davis is a really interesting option right now. He certainly profiles as a boom-bust guy. Gabe Davis has not had very many bust weeks, though, yet so far this season. He's had at least 10 points in 4 straight games, but the target share numbers are just really low for Gabe Davis. Last week, he had a season-high 22% target share, but he's had an under 13% target share or less in 3 of his 5 games. Like, there's games out there where he's one catch, and he still has an okay fantasy day with 10 points because that catch goes for 35 yards and a touchdown. That's just the season and the role that Gabe Davis has. But yeah, the floor is low for Gabe. It's another good matchup for Gabe Davis against the Giants. But yeah, I personally lean Judy over Gabe Davis this week. Thursday question: should I start Bucker or go for another kicker? I think Bucker is startable tonight, but the wind is definitely not good for the kickers. Like I can already envision it. They're in field goal range. In a normal game, they're kicking it, but because there's wind gusts above 30 miles an hour in this game and sustained winds at 15 miles an hour, they decide to go for it. instead. Like that's definitely going to be in play tonight for the kickers. So I think going with another kicker is fine. But if you're going to start a kicker tonight, Bucker is the one to start just because the Chiefs are going to score a lot of points in this one. Jaleel McLaughlin or Jerick McKinnon, hella injured at running back in a super competitive league. Yeah, Charlie, man, I feel your pain here in this one. And I know you're not alone in some tough Jaleel McLaughlin decisions tonight. And if you had tuned into the Sunday Morning Live, I told a lot of people to bench Jaleel, and that would end up being the wrong call. He had a great week. He actually finished as a top 10 running back last week. Jerick McKinnon, though, is the one that gets the better matchup tonight. So this is not an easy call. Walter's saying go with Jaleel. Javonte Williams is back, though, tonight. And in the games where Javonte Williams played, guys, look at these snap percentages for Jaleel in the first 3 weeks when Javonte Williams was playing. 16%, 5%, 6%. Like, he certainly earned a bigger role than that. I think he'll probably be in like the 15 to 30% range of snaps tonight. I think Javonte will probably be in the 20 to 40% snap range. And then Samaje Piran's going to mix in too. I mean, it's a three-headed backfield. It's just brutal stuff. And then Jerick McKinnon, I mean, he's been having a really low floor, but he gets the Broncos at least, and he's going to probably play more snaps, or at least as many snaps, like around the same amount of snaps probably as Jaleel. I mean, it wouldn't be like that crazy to see Jaleel lead this team in snaps still, because he has played well each of the last 2 weeks. He has been the most efficient running back. If we do this comparison, let's look at the matchups though, and just look at the matchup difference here, man. Like you got to go with McKinnon. Looking at the matchups here and how massive of games the running backs have had against the Broncos, I think you got to go Jerick McKinnon over Jaleel McLaughlin personally, even though Jaleel's having a much better season. In just with the context too of Javonte Williams returning tonight. Why bench Rashee in over 21.5? Yeah, so we're benching Rashee Rice because there's significant wind in this game, and his floor is 0 yards. His floor is 0 catches. Let me pull up the game logs here for Rashee Rice, and I'm excited about Rashee Rice. Like I think he's the most exciting receiver right now, the most exciting wide receiver for the Chiefs, but he still has such a low floor because he's still not seeing huge volume. He only ran a route on 23% of the dropbacks for Mahomes last week, guys. He ran 10 routes. You're betting on a guy that ran 10 routes, and he actually ended up having an okay week. He had 13.3 points. I think he scored a touchdown. Yeah, he did. 4 catches, 33 yards, and a touchdown. His target per route run rate is actually super high because he's not running very many routes, but when he's out there, I mean, he was targeted last week on 50% of his routes. I mean, crazy stuff. And it was pretty high. I think 33% of his routes he was targeted on the week before that because he's running almost no routes. But yeah, I don't want to start a guy that's not out there. He's out there less than a third of the snaps last week. Only, again, 10 routes. That's 23% of the routes of the dropbacks from Mahomes last week for Rashee Rice. The floor is so low. The floor is 0. The floor is a donut for Rashee Rice, even though he hasn't done that yet this season. I just think the floor is low. And what's the ceiling for a guy that's only out there a third of the snaps? It's just not that high. It's like a similar thing with Javonte Williams tonight, too. There's a lot of guys like that tonight. All right. Judy or T. Higgins. Yeah, I lean towards T. Higgins over Judy this week. I think that's fine. I do think that T. Higgins is going to play. Mixon or Montgomery, I lean Monty over Mixon. I'll try to prioritize the Thursday night. Jaleel or Kadarius Toney. Yeah, so Kadarius Toney actually kind of showed up last week. I think it was his best game of the season. And this game environment tonight, the game environment that includes 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts and sustained winds at 15 miles an hour, it actually might bode well for Kadarius Toney, who's getting a lot of his catches right around the line of scrimmage. He played his highest snap percentage of the season last week, 38% of the snaps. He had his highest route percentage too, at 37% of the routes for the Chiefs, and his highest target total too, 6 targets, 15% target share, highest target share total. I mean, it was his best game of the season by far. He only had 5 catches, 26 yards, and only 7 fantasy points. But yeah, I think I'm okay starting Kadarius Toney over Jaleel McLaughlin. I really don't want Jaleel like at all. Okay. Thursday Night Football, start Mostert or Pacheco. Yes, you got to start both these guys. That's the answer. And I'm starting Mostert over Pacheco, cautiously starting Mostert over Pacheco. I mean, I really want to start Pacheco, though, and I think they're both top 10 options this week. And yeah, Walter agrees with me about Mostert over Pacheco with Devon Achane out. I mean, it's wheels up for Mostert for sure. And they both have the best 2 matchups you could have against the Panthers and the Broncos. But the Broncos are like, look at the gap here between the worst running defense and the second worst running defense. And I'm talking to people on the YouTube Live. By the way, if you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. The YouTube Live is the better viewing experience because I can share my screen. And on my screen right now, we're looking at the comparison of Raheem Mostert's matchup versus Isaiah Pacheco's matchup tonight. The Broncos, guys, they have a historically bad run defense. We haven't seen a defense be this bad against running backs in years. They're allowing 36 points per game to running backs this season. The second worst team, the Panthers, they're allowing a full 10 points less per game to running backs. Huge gap between these 2 defenses. I mean, it's crazy. So yeah, you got to start Mostert. I still think you start Mostert just given the upside of that offense and what we've seen from Mostert in some games this season. But I really don't want to bench Pacheco. Like, I think both these guys should be started in basically all situations this week. I would start Kittle over Logan Thomas, Olave for Mixon. I think that's a fair trade. I think I honestly might prefer the Mixon side. Mixon's like low-key seeing a workhorse role right now. Deshaun Watson is out this week. Should I worry about Amari Cooper? Yeah, for sure. We should be very worried about Amari Cooper. I mean, we saw it in the game that Watson already missed. And yeah, wow, Watson not expected to play versus San Francisco. Just brutal stuff for the Browns, brutal stuff for Amari Cooper. And yeah, let me pull up the game log here for Amari in the game that he played the week before the bye without Watson. And if I recall correctly, it was not a good one for him. And yeah, 2.6 points. I mean, they couldn't move the ball at all. He had 6 targets and did nothing. A lot of air yards still. He had 1 catch, 16 yards. I mean, almost none of his targets, if I recall correctly, were even catchable. Brutal stuff overall. So yeah, you should be concerned about Amari. And I think that starting Judy over Amari is actually fine. Kelsey is playing. Yep, Kelsey's active. He's playing. He has to be started in every single league for sure. Should I trade JT for DJ Moore? It's a fair trade. If you need a receiver, I'm cool with that one. I think that's fine. Hey, Sam, should I trade away Kelsey for Amon-Ra, Puka, and Ingram? Full PPR wide receivers are Godwin, Wilson, D-Hop, Judy. It's a pretty fair trade. I mean, I don't love giving up Kelsey, but you're getting a big return here, especially in PPR. I think both those receivers are startable. And Ingram's not horrible either. Judy's in the must-start list because I don't have a fringe start list anymore, and I do lean closer to starting Judy than benching Judy. The reason to bench Judy tonight is the wind and the matchup. The matchup is not great. The Chiefs have allowed the 10th fewest points per game to receivers this season, and there's going to be 15-mile-an-hour winds and wind gusts over 30 miles an hour tonight in this game. So that's not good for the passing attacks. The reason to start Judy is he's finally at full health, and he's clearly the best receivers the Broncos have. He ran 100% of the routes for the Broncos last week for the first time, and this is really the first game we're going into this season where we can confidently say, yeah, Judy's at full health, and he's probably going to run a route on every single drop back for the Broncos tonight, and he's probably going to lead the team in targets in a game that the Broncos are going to get crushed. And even despite the wind, probably going to have to throw the ball a decent amount. So there's a lot of competing things with Judy tonight, but I think he's a fringe start. Like, I'm starting Nico Collins over Jerry Judy. I'm starting a lot of different guys over Judy. Let me list off some of the receivers I would start over Jerry Judy. And then some of the receivers I would start Jerry Judy over. All right, let's run through this list. So yeah, Nico Collins definitely should be started over Judy. Adam Thielen should be started over Judy. Garrett Wilson for sure. Mike Evans, I'm not sure he's going to play yet, but I would hold out hope for him over Judy. Jordan Addison over Judy. Pittman, Christian Kirk, Jacoby Myers, Marquise Brown, Calvin Ridley. I start all these guys over Judy. I would start Judy over Amari Cooper with the news about Deshaun Watson. I am pretty nervous about Amari Cooper now. I would start Chris Godwin over Judy. I would start Devontae Smith, Nico Collins, I already said. Brandon Ayuk and Zay Flowers I would start over Jerry Judy. I would start Jerry Judy over KJ Osborne, though. I've seen a lot of those questions out there. I'm starting Judy over Osborne. I get the hype, the excitement around Osborne with Justin Jefferson now, but guys, it's still KJ Osborne. Like, what's the true ceiling for KJ Osborne? It's not Justin Jefferson's ceiling. It's like 20 points. And I think Judy's ceiling is higher than Osborne's, even with the wind. I'm starting Judy over Sutton for sure. I want nothing to do with Sutton tonight. Sutton's coming off his worst game of the season, only 2 points last week as for Sutton. He only had 3 targets, 1 catch, 13 yards against the Jets. Better matchup for him tonight. And he did a run route also on 100% of the dropbacks for Russ. But yeah, with the wind and with the floor we've seen from Sutton this season, like if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's almost definitely going under 10 points. That's kind of been the case for Sutton this year. So yeah, I'm kind of out on Sutton tonight. I would not start Judy over DK. I would not start Judy over Olave either. And I would hold out hope for T. Higgins over Judy also. I would start Judy over Boyd though, I think, with T. Higgins looking likely to play. All right, here we go. Thursday Night Football starts it. Fun game tonight with the Chiefs and the Broncos. Chiefs 10.5 point favorites. The Chiefs have beat the Broncos 15 consecutive games, and the Broncos have the worst rushing defense in recent memory. They are by far the worst rushing defense in the league, allowing a full 10 points more per game to running backs in fantasy this year than the second worst rushing defense, which is the Carolina Panthers. So they're allowing 36 points per game to running backs. Who can I start wide receiver 2/flex instead of Judy? Rank, JSN, Mingo, Quentin Johnson, Waddle's wide receiver 1. Yeah, I'm starting Judy over all these guys. I would start Judy over JSN, Mingo, and Quentin Johnston. Personally, let's do a comparison here of these guys, though. I would start JSN over Mingo. And yeah, Quentin Johnston's a tough one. I want to look at his last game when Mike Williams was out. And yeah, he did see a huge role increase, but yeah, he's still definitely not startable, especially against the Cowboys. And then the other guy, JSN, I think he's at least in the mix here. And then Mingo. Yeah, it's got to be Judy. It's got to be Judy over these guys. Even despite the tough matchup, this one's really not that close. Judy he's going to beat these guys in every single stat this season. It's not even close. He's averaging way more points per game. He's averaging more snaps. He's averaging more targets, more receptions, more yards. Actually, Mingo's beating him in targets at least. But yeah, more air yards, target share is higher. You got to go Judy. Go Judy in this spot. Despite kind of a scary start tonight, Judy can be started in spots like this. Like I'm starting him over Josh Downs as well. Rashee Rice or McLaughlin or Palmer. Yeah, I go Josh Palmer over Rashee Rice and McLaughlin. I want nothing to do with Jaleel tonight. No, thank you. I was out on him last week, and that was a mistake, but Javonte's back this week. So I'm pretty nervous about Jaleel. Jaleel had under a 15% snap share in the 3 games with Javonte Williams in full health this season. Danny Jones or Zach Wilson? Yeah, I go Daniel Jones over Zach Wilson. Christian Kirk and Mostert for Jefferson. I have Olave, Garrett Wilson, Puka, and Amari Cooper Beach on it. Yeah, I don't think I would do this one. Mostert's really, really valuable right now with Achane out. Mostert is going to help you make the playoffs for sure. Would you start Gus Edwards or Javonte? Oh, gosh. Yeah, Evan, this is brutal. This is just a brutal start sit that you have to make. And my gut leans towards Javonte over Gus Edwards, especially with potential of Keaton Mitchell coming into play for the Ravens this week. I don't think he's going to immediately steal stats from Gus Edwards, but it definitely is possible. But you're playing a guy in Javonte Williams tonight who's going to be part of a 3-way committee. He probably has the best chance of all the RBs to score a touchdown. So yeah, it's Javonte over Gus, but yeah, also the Titans are a good run defense too. I feel like specifically for a guy like Gus, like almost all the points against the Titans defense from running backs has come through the air. That's just not Gus Edwards' game. So yeah, I would go Javonte over Gus. Ramondre or Breece Hall. Traded Mostert. Ramondre or Breece Hall? I think I'd go Breece over Ramondre at this point. Traded Mostert for Swift and Nico. Thoughts? Yeah, Martin, thanks for the gifts and the TikTok live. Do appreciate that. I think it's a fair trade. Yeah, Mostert's probably the best player in that trade, especially for the weeks that Achane is out. Achane will come back, though, in the fantasy playoffs specifically. And Swift has been really great, too. So, yeah, I like the trade, especially if you needed a wide receiver. I think that was a good deal for you. Brock Purdy or Justin Fields? Got to be Fields right now with the rushing, with the passing that he's had the last couple of games. You got to start Fields for sure. Thursday Night Football, Bucker or Folk? Thoughts on DJ Morris if season full PPR? Also thoughts on Jeff Wilson. Yeah, Jeff Wilson, I thought kind of lost his spot in – I kind of thought he lost his role with Achane popping off. I didn't think he was going to come back and really get very many touches. With Achane out now, for sure, he's going to be in the mix to have a pretty significant role on the Dolphins offense. I don't think they're going to give Mostert this huge workhorse role. I don't think he needs that either for fantasy to produce. So Jeff Wilson should be rostered, I think, in all leagues. He certainly has a ceiling on the Dolphins. And then, yeah, DJ Morris, he's a top 12 wide receiver rest of the season, in my opinion, right now. And, yeah, Folk versus Butker. I'm pretty nervous about Butker overall tonight. I think he still can probably be started over Folk. I'm definitely benching Will Lutz for sure because of the wind in this game is why I'm nervous for the kickers. But, yeah, I still think that the Chiefs will score enough points that Butker makes sense there. But, yeah, definitely be aware of the wind. And I'm fine fading running backs in the wind just in general. I'm starting Hopkins over Judy tonight. Judy is a fringe start, not a must start, in my opinion. Ford or Madison? Oh, God, I kind of lean Madison over Ford with the Browns' offensive situation without Deshaun. I'm starting Judy over Amari Cooper with the Deshaun situation as well. I'm definitely playing Josh Downs over Logan Thomas. I'm almost never going to start 2 tight ends if I don't need to. All right. We are live on TikTok, guys. We are live on YouTube. YouTube Live, we're going to be wrapping up the YouTube Live right now. The free player prop, if you guys missed it, it is Isaiah Pacheco, over 77.5 rushing yards. I'm 8-2, guys, on these free player props. 80%. 10 props in. We're hitting at 80%. And we're going to hit this one again tonight because the Broncos defense, their run defense, is by far the worst in the league. But they've been crushed. And it's part of the reason is they let up so many big plays. They're by far leading the league in most plays of 15 or more yards, most plays of 20 or more yards. The Broncos defense has been obliterated by big plays. And we've seen so many running backs pop off against them. All of these running backs went over this prop line that Isaiah Pacheco has tonight. And by the way, Pacheco, he's had at least 15 carries in 3 straight games. He could easily go over 20 carries tonight in the game that the Chiefs are favored by 10.5 points, and there's significant wind. Brian Robinson was the running back 1 when he played against the Broncos. Achane was the running back 1 when he played against the Broncos. Mostert was RB2 when he played against the Broncos. Khalil Herbert was RB8 when he played against the Broncos. And Breece last week was RB3. We're on the Breece prop last week. That was the free prop last week. And yeah, we're just going to keep targeting the Broncos run defense because they can't stop anyone. They've stopped nobody this season. Diggs and Addison for Jefferson and Addison. How are you getting Addison on both sides of this trade? I like the Diggs side more for sure, just in general. Terry should trade Amon-Ra, Pittman, and Kittle for Diggs. I'm 2-3 in wide receivers are Tyreek, Marquise Brown, and Elijah Moore. It depends what your tight end situation is. I don't really love this because I think Amon-Ra isn't that far off from Diggs. I certainly prefer Diggs, and Pittman is definitely a valuable receiver too. And yeah, at least Kittle has week winning upside every week, even though the floor is low. Start Kirk or Fields. I've been hearing mixed opinions. Thanks, Sammy. It's Fields over Kirk. It's got to be. It's got to be Fields over Kirk. Without Justin Jefferson, like that is a really significant hit on Kirk Cousins. You got to look at the Kirk Cousins number with like a huge grain of salt now, because you almost have to assume that Kirk Cousins will do worse without the best or one of the best receivers in the NFL right now. And just looking at the numbers for Kirk, like they've been pretty good. He's gone over 25 points twice, but it's not like they've been like must start numbers every single week. It's a good matchup for Kirk against the Bears, best matchup that could happen for him this week. But yeah, I still would start Fields against the Vikings rather than Kirk against the Bears. All right, YouTube Live, guys. Time's the most valuable thing we have. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I'll be back live as always for like 3.5, 4 hours on Sunday morning. I think we're on London time again this Sunday. So make sure you hit that notification button on YouTube to be notified of the YouTube Live. If you still have some start sits, make sure you go check out the WalterPicks app. It's going to be the best place to do your start sit comparisons, but also come to the TikTok Live if you have more questions that I haven't gotten to yet. Thanks so much for tuning in, and see you on Sunday.